Coming up on our newscast tonight, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un arrives in Vietnam and he is greeted by local officials and a guard of honor as he steps out of his train. Meanwhile, flying from the opposite side of the globe, U.S. President Donald Trump is expected to arrive at the host country of the summit tonight. President Moon Jae-in underscores the significance of marking the 100th anniversary of Korea's March 1st independence movement and establishment of the provisional government. He also highlights the importance of the country's leadership in shaping the future of the peninsula. The nation's consumer sentiment index rises for the third straight month. Better performance of the local stock market and improved Pyongyang-Washington ties are seen as key contributing factors. News Center begins now. It's 8 p.m. here in Korea, live from our studio in Seoul. This is Arirang News Center. Welcome to our program. I'm Daniel Choi. Kim Jong-un arrived in Vietnam today after a long train ride all the way from North Korea. It's the first visit to the country by a leader of the regime in over half a century. Once again, we start things off by connecting to our reporter standing by in the host city. Our Park Hee-jun is at the Hanoi hotel where Kim is staying. Hee-jun, what has the North Korean leader been up to on his first day?
Well, it looks like the North Korean leader has gone for a surprise outing tonight after all. He's at the North Korean embassy after having left this hotel about an hour ago. Now, North Korean delegates have departed from Marriott Hotel with the escort of security personnel. Kim left in the same black Mercedes he took from Dongdang Station to Marriott Hotel. Now, the road he took to get to the embassy was, of course, heavily guarded. He was seen entering the embassy with his top nuclear envoy, Kim Yong-chol, his younger sister, Kim Yo-jong, and his protocol chief, Kim Chang-son. It's starting to look quite similar to his schedule back in Singapore when he was there for his first face-to-face with President Trump. He went to some key tourist spots in the country ahead of the summit. If you remember, he even took a selfie at the Marina Bay Sands Hotel, which was quite a surprise. Maybe we'll end up getting another selfie out of him in Vietnam. Now, the North Korean embassy is only 1.5 kilometers away from the Marriott Hotel. While he's out, he could also stop by some other places in Hanoi. Lotte Center, for instance, is an important landmark of South Korea's economic influence in Vietnam. He is, after all, well known for his interest in seeking economic reforms for North Korea, with the Vietnam model being one of the options. Another place he might go to is the presidential palace because the Vietnamese president is back from a trip to nearby countries. When Kim was on his way to the Marriott Hotel earlier today, it was thought he might stop by some other key sites in Vietnam, like Ha Long Bay, a popular tourist destination, and industrial sites in Haiphong or Phang Ninh province. He might still do that while he's in the country. He could also maybe visit a cemetery some 60 kilometers outside Hanoi, where 14 North Koreans who died fighting in the Vietnam War are buried. That'll be easier to do thanks to the Vietnamese government clearing traffic for him. Starting this evening, the Vietnamese government is restricting vehicles from using certain parts of Hanoi. They'll also be applied tomorrow from 9 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon, and that's speculation that Kim might be up for another surprise visit tomorrow. Daniel.
Well, it's just day one. There's plenty of time to do a lot of other activities. Shifting over to our EG1 at the JW Marriott now, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo arrived in Hanoi earlier today, Jiwon, and while he stayed rather quiet in his hotel for the whole day, we're hoping that maybe there was some activity. Can you update us on the situation there, Jiwon?
Daniel, Secretary Pompeo is believed to be inside the hotel with his car newly washed and waiting in the lobby. But we are expecting to see Secretary Mike Pompeo come out very soon as he is going to be meeting with Vietnam's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Affairs Minister Phan Binh Minh at 6:30, which is in 30 minutes. Now, during the day, Pompeo is expected to have been briefed by Biden on the details of his 5 days of talks with his North Korean counterpart Kim Hyok-chol. There are also high expectations that Pompeo could meet tomorrow with his North Korean counterpart Kim Yong-chol, who's been at the forefront of negotiations with the U.S. The high-level officials are likely to give a final check to what Kim and Biden have negotiated before their leaders seal the deal, likely on the 28th. Now, some local media report that White House National Security Advisor John Bolton also came into town with Secretary Pompeo, but we are going to have to double-check on that.
All right, the big name President Trump left Washington some time ago. So, Jaein, when do we think he's going to arrive in Hanoi?
Yes, Daniel, after stopping over in Qatar, the Air Force One is again heading this way. Now, we're expecting to have President Trump in Hanoi at around 11 p.m. tonight. His first official schedule tomorrow is understood to be meeting with the Vietnamese president and prime minister. Trump will then be holding a one-on-one sit-down with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un Wednesday evening, followed by a social dinner, a first, which will include 2 officials from each side. Joining that dinner will be Secretary Pompeo and Mick Mulvaney, acting White House Chief of Staff. We're also hearing that the 2 leaders might watch a special performance at the Hanoi Opera House tomorrow night. Back to you, Daniel.
Jaein Hee-jun, thank you for those updates. We appreciate them. Vietnamese officials, citizens, and foreign journalists were ready and eagerly awaiting this moment. Kim Jong-un stepping out of his train. The host country made sure to roll out the red carpet at the Dongdang railway station. Cha Sang-mi zooms in on the scene.
After a 65-hour train ride across China, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un arrived in Vietnam on Tuesday, a day ahead of his summit with U.S. President Donald Trump. This comes 8 months after their first landmark meeting in Singapore last June. Kim was welcomed by hundreds of Vietnamese officials, soldiers, locals, and international media on the red carpet, laid out at Dongdang railway station on the China-Vietnam border at 8:15 a.m. local time. The security was high at the station with Vietnamese troops and sniffer dogs patrolling the area. The locals waved North Korean and Vietnamese flags as Kim got out of the train with his top delegates, including his sister Kim Yo-jong and his top nuclear negotiator Kim Young-chol. Soon after he shook hands with officials smiling, Kim hopped into a limousine which drove 3 hours to take him to his hotel in Hanoi. Kim's bodyguards, a dozen tall men in black suits and short haircuts, ran along the car as it drove away, a scene we saw at the first Inter-Korean summit last year. Analysts say that for now, the North Korean leader appears eager to continue breaking out of his isolationism on the international image.
He has again successfully demonstrated that he is an important leader of a country that matters for the United States, and that his image has been laundered successfully from a pariah leader to one which is increasingly acceptable to the international community.
He arrived at the Melia Hotel in Hanoi's diplomatic district at 11 a.m. local time and is reportedly getting some rest before his hectic schedule on Wednesday. Cha Sang-mi, Arirang News.
Also in Hanoi, an opening ceremony was held for the Korea Press Center, organized by the Korea Press Foundation. The facility will be open 24/7 through Friday. There are 3 expert forums set to be held on Wednesday and Thursday. Such events could be delayed depending on the summit schedule. The discussions will evaluate the second Pyongyang-Washington summit and look ahead to the future. The talks will be in either Korean or English with simultaneous interpretation for both. Hanoi is the center of the world's attention, with thousands of foreign journalists flooding into the host city of the summit. Local businesses are looking to cash in on this opportunity. Kan Young-woo introduces to us some of the hot items.
From T-shirts emblazoned with the faces of Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump to summit-inspired burgers and cocktails, the second meeting between the North Korean leader and the U.S. president has local merchants in Hanoi buzzing with anticipation. Business-minded people here in Hanoi are making the most of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to take their marketing global. A small T-shirt store owner and the designer of Hanoi Summit T-shirts, Zong Tan-duk has seen his sales soar by more than 3 times regular levels since he began selling his special Kim Trump designs. Zong says he's happy about the demand for his clothes, but is hoping for more.
Through this summit, I hope peace can be achieved on the Korean Peninsula with no more nuclear ghosts. I hope Kim Jong-un and his people can make new friends, including with the U.S.
About a 10-minute walk away from the T-shirt store, an Irish chef at a local burger restaurant has been serving summit specials, Kim Jong-un and Dirty Donald. Head chef Colin Kelly says when he heard Kim and Trump were coming to town, he knew he couldn't afford to pass up such a golden opportunity.
Well, for the summit, it's a summit all about world peace and bringing people together. And I believe what better way to bring people together than food.
In Hanoi's Old Quarter, a wine bar has grabbed the chance to cash in as well, offering the Peace Negroniations, a summit spin-off of the classic cocktail Negroni. Local businesses reaping the economic benefits from the Kim-Trump meeting are hoping the summit-related gold rush can continue at least for the rest of the week. 한용우, Arirang News, Hanoi.
Anticipation builds as the two leaders will sit down for their second summit. For an in-depth analysis of the hotly anticipated event, we're joined in the studio by Dr. Yu Jeonghee. Dr. Yu, thank you for making time for us.
It's my pleasure.
Well, first of all, working level officials of both sides have been very busy, and it seems like they're coming out with a very positive vibe so far.
Of course, they don't say, they have not said anything officially yet. So we just want to feel that how the things are going on between them. And the differences between them are so big before they began to negotiate in this place. So we don't know how much they could narrow down their differences and whether they can reach some kind of agreement before two leaders are going to meet tomorrow. So I hope the best, but we don't know yet what is actually discussed at this moment.
Right, they're all smiles, but we don't know what kind of a battle face they have on the side or at the back to make sure the details are ironed out this time for a change. Denuclearization is the key topic, of course. What kind of deal could be produced at this point after the lukewarm results of the first summit, in your opinion? So
as you just mentioned, that the denuclearization is the topic that everyone has interest in. But the U.S. government kept emphasizing that the summit this time is to make progress from the Singapore summit, which is about the U.S.-DPRK bilateral relations, lasting peace on the Korean Peninsula, denuclearization and repatriation of the remains of missing U.S. soldiers during the Korean War. So denuclearization is one pillar of like 4 elements agreed by two sides last year. So I think that United States might exchange first two bilateral relations between U.S. and North Korea and the lasting peace on the Korean Peninsula with some kind of measures done by North Korea about denuclearization. So U.S. Representative Mr. Biegun spoke before the summit that they are not ready to give up the sanctions, which is only leverages that U.S. government has against North Korea. So I think the U.S. government is trying to exchange denuclearization with what they can offer, which is about political and diplomatic measures.
And what they can exchange at this point does not mean a full stop to anything. It will be a continuation, right?
So I don't think that anyone at this stage is expecting to have some kind of agreement that will full denuclearization of North Korea. So I think that as President Trump mentioned, that we are going to see another summit or continued negotiation in the future. So I think any progress made this time will be welcomed.
And Washington is looking to set up diplomatic office in North Korea. This could happen, and if that happens, it's more than just a symbolic move. It could help improve ties drastically, right?
So the U.S. and North Korea has discussed this item before, and U.S. already discussed this kind of liaison office or having their officials in Pyongyang before, so it's not difficult for U.S. to actually implement this time. So for North Korea, by accepting this kind of diplomatic offers from the United States, what North Korea is going to provide to the United States is the key question. So if the measures that North Korea is going to take is meaningful enough for international community and the United States to believe that it's now time to improve the bilateral relations between two, I think these kind of measures will be welcomed by international community.
Right, about time for North Korea to open up a little bit more. Another measure North Korea has been pursuing is the declaration of the end of the Korean War. How do you perceive would be the tangible steps that could be taken at this summit in Hanoi?
So Stephen Biegun mentioned that there's a possibility that President Trump is going to mention something in the line of declaration to end the war. So at this stage, we don't know whether President Trump is going to use the word explicitly, the declaration to end the war, or if President Trump is going to use some kind of word that imply that they are going to do something in the line of declaring to end the war. So we don't know yet what kind of exact term that they are going to use. However, the intention behind this is that U.S. is ready to provide some kind of political diplomatic measures to North Korea in exchange for their meaningful measures of denuclearization.
Right, and there must be concerns on both sides. They have disappointed both sides when they return home, probably more so for U.S. than North Korea. So right now they do not want to come empty-handed or taking a step back. So how do we measure success from the second Kim-Trump summit?
So as long as the dialogue between two can continue, I think it's still we still can welcome that result, because we saw that when the dialogue is interrupted between two countries, we saw what kind of things can happen in 2017. So I think that keeping the momentum of dialogue is very important. And if they can make progress compared to the Singapore summit, which is about more of abstract terms of denuclearization, I think we can focus more in the future about future negotiations at the working level negotiators. So if two leaders can agree that their working level negotiators are going to continue the negotiation, I think it can be successful.
Setting attainable goals and working towards achieving them will be the next step, especially with working level officials. They'll be kept busier than ever.
Sure.
Well, thank you so much for your insights, Dr. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
This Friday, Koreans will celebrate the 100th anniversary of a very important historic event that helped the nation break free from Japan's oppressive colonial rule. Ahead of the centennial of the March 1st independence movement, President Moon Jae-in emphasized the importance of Korea taking control in deciding the peninsula's fate. Shin Se-min tells us more.
With Korea set to mark the 100th anniversary of the country's March 1st independence movement and the establishment of the provisional government, President Moon Jae-in highlighted the importance of Korea's leadership in deciding the fate of the country and the peninsula at large. Taking the weekly cabinet meeting outside the parameters of a public facility to a memorial of an independence fighter, the president said the country had come a long way since 100 years ago, when it was under the colonial rule and unable to decide its own fate.
그러나 지금 국제사회에서 우리의 위상은 완전히 달라졌습니다. 충분히 자부심을 가지만 합니다.
Emphasizing that the country is only one of 7 countries in the world with more than 50 million people and per capita income of $30,000, the president said Koreans must take control of its own destiny. He also took pride that his country is now getting more attention and acknowledgments from around the world for its role in managing changes on the Korean peninsula.
우리는 더 이상 역사의 변방이 아닙니다. 새로운 백년을 다짐하고 열어갈 역량이 우리 안에 있다는 자긍심과 자신감으로 새로운 시대를 함께 열어가기를 희망합니다.
Also ahead of the Kim-Trump summit in Vietnam, President Moon had previously called for preparation on resuming inter-Korean economic cooperation, something he said was required for Seoul to take control of the fate of the Korean peninsula. In time for the anniversary of the 100th independence movement this week, the government also conferred the Republic of Korea Medal to Yu Kwon-soon, a female martyr who symbolized the March 1st independence movement. It's an upgrade from the third highest civilian order she had been given before. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
As part of celebrating the March 1st independence movement, the government announced the final list of presidential pardons to be granted this week. Among the 4,378 people are 107 activists who were imprisoned for joining what are called the 7 major protests, including the ones against the government's handling of the Sewol ferry disaster and the deployment of the THAAD system in Korea. According to the Justice Ministry, the pardons are meant to resolve divisions within the nation. 97% of the beneficiaries were those who committed crimes to sustain their lives. The pardons exclude former politicians and those convicted of major economic crimes, including bribery, embezzlement, and breach of trust. The list was approved today in a cabinet meeting led by President Moon. The nation's central bank released its data on consumer sentiment for February. The index shows people are feeling better about the economy. Kim Hye-sung help us look beyond the digits.
South Korea's consumer sentiment rose for the 3rd consecutive month in February. The Bank of Korea says its monthly consumer sentiment index climbed 2 points on month to 99.5. The central bank said the improved performance of the local stock market and an uptick in North Korea-U.S. relations lifted overall consumer sentiment. After remaining lodged at the 2,000 level late last year, Korea's benchmark Kospi bounced back to the 2,200 range in February on various factors, including rising optimism over a possible U.S.-China trade agreement. However, the index has remained below 100 for 5 straight months, meaning there are more pessimists than optimists about the local economy. Among 6 major sub-indices, 4, including households' view of current economic conditions, rose sharply, up 5 points to 70. The view of future economic conditions jumped 4 points to 80. At the same time, business sentiment in Korea has also improved. According to the Korea Economic Research Institute's survey on 600 businesses in the country, the Business Survey Index for March hit 97, up from a decade low of 81 in February. Respondents pointed to de-escalating trade tensions between the U.S. and China, better demand conditions in the auto and shipbuilding sector, and more working days in March compared to February as reasons for improving business sentiment. Business outlook in the auto and shipbuilding sector hit 104.2, nearly doubling from a reading of 53 for February. But the Korea Economic Research Institute said while business sentiment has improved, the reading remains below 100, meaning there are more pessimists than optimists, and that the overall economic outlook remains weak, with export growth expected to continue slowing down. Kim Hye-sung, Arirang News.
The Presidential Committee on the Fourth Industrial Revolution unveiled new plans to support local companies in the field. Possible measures include seminars or events that bring together companies, universities, financial institutions, and the press so they can better communicate with one another. Korea has made less progress in the Fourth Industrial Revolution than hoped for, despite the government's continuous financial support for companies' R&D. The committee said networking opportunities will be based on specific topics such as artificial intelligence and wearable robots. The world's biggest annual mobile event is now on in Barcelona. This year, the focus is on the latest trends in the tech realm, namely 5G fast connectivity and foldable phones. Kim Jaein shows us what to watch for at the 2019 Mobile World Congress.
Remember when 4G unlocked the door to connected consumer experiences? Well, it seems that door will be flung wide open with 5G connectivity, with a glimpse of the 5G era being offered at the yearly gadget bonanza in the form of 5G-ready smartphones with near-instant download capabilities. At this year's Mobile World Congress, ultra-high-speed 5G smartphones are all the rage in the mobile sector. The latest in 4G, which is LTE-A, can theoretically achieve download speeds of up to 1 gigabits per second. But 5G is expected to go as high as 20 gigabits per second, according to mobile carriers and telecom companies here at the MWC.
I'm at hall number 3, one of the most crowded places at this year's MWC. Around me, you can see the world's leading IT companies like Samsung Electronics and Huawei showing off their latest gadgets.
Aside from 5G-enhanced gadgets, foldable phones are taking center stage. Samsung's first mainstream foldable smartphone, the Samsung Galaxy Fold, is a $2,300 phone-tablet hybrid with a 4.6-inch display on the front of the device and a folding 7.3-inch AMOLED display inside. The device was on display, but out of reach for visitors who had hoped to try it out for themselves. Up for sale much sooner are the 3 models of the Samsung Galaxy S10 series, equipped with ultrasonic in-display fingerprint sensors and a main 12-megapixel camera. Xiaomi is attending the MWC for the first time this year. It's displaying its flagship Xiaomi Mi 9 and its budget 5G option, the Mi Mix 3. It will retail for less than $700, far cheaper than other 5G-based phones that are at least $900. Kim Jeon, Arirang News, Barcelona.
Time to turn to Michelle Bach at the Weather Center for the updates you need. Michelle, it seems like we've made it through the thick, toxic dust.
Yes, Daniel, but the western regions will turn bad again tomorrow. Northeast Asian countries will continue to experience spring-like weather, while there will be light rain in the southern regions of the nation, mostly receiving between 5 and 10 millimeters of precipitation. And the morning in Seoul gets a low of 2 degrees Celsius tomorrow and up to 6 degrees warmer down in the south. And by the afternoon, the daily highs will peak between 11 and 15 degrees. Over in Hanoi, where the North Korea-U.S. summit will take place, isolated showers continue to fall in various locations. While tomorrow, the first day of the summit, there will be some thunder and lightning in the morning hours, and also run up to the summit, temperatures are warming up. I'll leave you with the weather conditions around the world.
That's all from us. As always, thank you for watching.